Welcome back to another quick Python tutorial. I want to take another look at that guessing game that we had in the previous videos and turn it into an actual Python program. I do want to up the ante on the guessing game a little bit, so we want to change it up just slightly. So I've got the pseudocode on the right hand side here that shows us what our guessing game was. It was basically a game that allowed us to guess until we got it right, but I'd like to open up the set of numbers from 1 to 10 to say maybe 1 to 100 or 1 to 1,000, and obviously guessing until we get it right may be a little bit more difficult with bigger sets of values. So I want to make it so that I can keep the values still small, reasonable, 1 to 10, 1 to 100, but give myself 5 guesses at it, 5 cracks at it. So I'm going to change the logic up just a little bit here. So let's look at that. If I've already got a random value in and a number of guesses, I want to declare a number of attempts that I would like to take at this guess. Okay? And so if I'm looking at it, I've got that. Now I'm going to input the guess, and if I've input a guess, I should actually set attempts equal to 1. I've already made an attempt at this point, so I've already input a guess, so I need to set that attempts to 1. And so now the game needs to start playing. So we had it set up where while the guess was not equal to random value, it would tell us if we were too high or too low and input a new guess. Now I'd like to make this game play only when I have attempts left, and I want to set this to 5 attempts. So let's change this while loop heading ever so slightly to play while my guess is not equal to the random value and my attempts is less than 5. So as long as both of these things are true, I'm going to be allowed to continue to play the game. As soon as one of them is false, I stop playing the game and I have to decide why I left the game. Did I leave because I got it right, or did I leave because I ran out of guesses? So basically our logic in here is going to stay the same, but the overall is we stop playing the game under one of 2 conditions. We got it right, or we lost on the attempts, we used too many. So we'll have to figure that part out a little bit later. But for now, we're going to keep playing while we don't have a guess that's right, and we still have attempts that are less than 5. So if my guess was less than the random value, then we display we were too low. Otherwise, we display we were too high because we know we weren't correct. Okay? We're going to input a new guess, and every time we input a new guess, we should increase the number of attempts. So we might say something like set attempts equal to attempts plus 1 to increase it. Eventually, we'll either get it right, so our guess will be the random value, and this loop, this particular condition will become false, and we will exit the loop. Or my attempts will become 5. I have taken 5 attempts, and I will have left the loop because of that. So when we come down here and we're actually out of the loop, we can't just display congratulations. We could win this game or we could lose it. So we have to make sure we understand why we left it. So this is a perfect place for another condition. And we could say something like, if my guess actually equaled my random value, then I would want to display some congratulatory message. Display congratulations. Okay. Else, okay, we might display sorry, you lost, the number was, and then we could add to this the random value. Okay, and that would allow us to at least display what the random value may have been prior to doing this. So the big thing is, why did I put this out here? Well, it's because I left the loop on 1 of 2 conditions. The problem is I don't know which one forced me out of the loop unless I asked the question. So I either left the loop because I got it right, or I left the loop because I got it wrong too many times. It's down here is where I finally figured that out. I left the loop because I got it right, then display congratulations. Otherwise, I must have left because I ran out of attempts, so I can display that what the random value was. And there's lots of different ways you can write this. You could say if attempts equals 5, then you know you lost. Or if guess is not equal to random value still, you know you lost. So there's other ways that you can go about doing it. So there's our logic. Let's talk about how to make this in Python. So I'm going to come over here to idle, and I'm going to make a new file. Okay. And there it is. And I want to start typing out some of this stuff. Now we know we don't make declarations in Python. Okay, we only set things upon assignment. But down here, I have nothing down here where I've assigned the random value. So I may want to do that also in my declaration phase so that I can be sure to do it in my Python file. Why is my cursor not going to the right spot? I don't know. Okay, equals random from 1 to 100. Now this is just a way to use a module. If you've read chapter 3, and you may know some more about modules, we'll talk about how to use random numbers here just for this particular project, but you'll get more used to it as we kind of go and start talking about modules and functions and how do you work with them appropriately. But this isn't really all that complicated. All right, so the declarations. Yeah, we don't do much with these in Python, but this one we kind of have to tackle because I can't really do anything until I get a random value. So in Python, getting a random value is actually pretty easy. We have to first import a library called random. Okay, what that does is it allows me to pull random numbers. Okay, gives me and so if I actually want to set this variable random value, I can now set it equal to a function from this module. So what we do is we say random dot, and then there's two functions that you can work with, randint and randrange. I'm going to work with randint just simply because it's easier to write. And what we do is we say randint, and then we can pass it the lowest value we'd like the random number to be and the highest value we'd like it to be. So it's a lot like the print or input statement or some of those other functions that we've seen in class so far, but it's coming from something external. Okay, it's not built into Python per se. It's not one of these functions that shows up with those purple letters in idle, but it does show up from the random module. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with my cursor lately, but I can't seem to move around very well. All right, so let's do the rest of it. So we're going to, since we have the random value, we can input our guess. So we'll say something like guess equals int input, enter a guess from 1 through 100. Okay. And I'll close those quotes. And we're going to set attempts equal to 1, just like we said we were going to do. So there's kind of my input process, the setup of everything. I've got my 3 variables that I'm going to work with throughout this entire program, and now we can start getting into the process. So while my guess is not equal to my random value, okay, so again, this sets up very similar to what our pseudocode looks like. And, keyword and in Python is available. You don't have to use any special keys like in Java you use 2 ampersands. The words and or do just fine. And my attempts is less than 5. Okay. Now to continue on with the next block of code, what we want to execute over and over and over again, you got to follow that statement up with a colon, and then you'll see it indent, and you can start typing out the rest of what you want. If guess is less than random value, okay, then we can print or display that the guess was too low. Okay, we're going to do that, and there you are. Okay. Else, I can print the guess was too high. It's not bad. All right, now we've got those 2 things done. When we're in a while loop, not only do we have to do something, we have to also increment or change the control variable. Now I actually have 2 control variables here. I have a guess and an attempts. I better change both. So I'm going to get a new guess. Enter a value from 1 to 100. Okay, we'll just keep it basically the same as what before, and I'm going to increase attempts by 1. Okay. All right, so there's the first part of it. Now it's time to get into kind of the output section of it, but our output is dependent upon whether or not we exit the loop because we won or because we lost the game. So let's ask a question. If my guess is equal to the random value, then we can print congratulations, you got the number, or we can print that we didn't get it. and then we can type in what it was. We go .format, and we can go random value. All right. I say we save it, give it an attempt, and see what happens. So let's OK to save. So we'll do guessing game, and oops, save it in there. All right, let's run it. Let's see what happens. Oh, I have an issue here. Random has no attribute rand int. Oh, that's because I spelled it wrong. It's not an uppercase I, it is a lowercase I. So let's get our cursor over there and throw in the right function. So my bad there. Let's try that again. And those things are going to happen. Now the error message is gone. Let's enter a guess from 1 to 100. I'm going to guess 50. It's going to say it was too high, so I'm going to guess something like 25. It's going to say it was too high. Let's guess 12. It was too high. Let's guess 6. Congrats, I got the number. So I ended up getting it. There you go. Now, the problem is I really have no idea if it is actually working or not. So I'm going to go back to the program, and I'm going to do something just for debugging purposes. Up here, I am going to really quickly just do a print statement for the random value so that I can see that I'm actually doing it right. And I'll comment that out later once I know that my program's working appropriately. So let's save it and run it, and you can see the random number's 11. So if I were to guess 50, saying it was too high is appropriate. If I were to guess 5, saying it was too low is appropriate. If I were to guess 11, I know it works. And let's just try it one more time to make sure we are only able to take 5 guesses. So 24, I'm going to guess 2, 80, 60, 20, and 25. Okay, and it says, okay, I missed it. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guesses. It says it was 24. So now I know my program's working appropriately. We're able to go from logic to design without much problem. You will run into syntax issues from time to time. Don't be afraid of those. Read the messages and what it gives you. It will tell you how to fix it, or at least what needs to be fixed. So take the time to debug your program as you're going through. You will have those issues. But there you go. That's the quick setup and a simple guessing game that allows us to take a guess at a random value from 1 to 100 and see that we've only made a certain number of attempts, and in this case it was 5 attempts or less. So hopefully that helps with your next set of projects, and we'll see you in the next video.